Everybody, what's up? It's Nick here, and in today's video we're going to bring you guys a quick basic Adobe Photoshop tutorial. Today we're going to be going over the levels feature inside of Photoshop, which is basically an adjustment to fix the levels of exposure in your photographs. So I've been taking a basic digital photography course in this semester of college, and I've been learning a lot about how to use Photoshop for more photography purposes rather than just photo manipulation and graphic design. So what levels essentially does is it allows you to fix your exposure in your photographs to basically bring out the best bits and pieces out of all of the data that's there. So I have an old photo that I've taken here, and I've used all of these photos which I've taken over a year ago just to adjust them and see what I can do, because back when I took these photos I didn't know about proper exposure and things like that. But essentially this is what it looks like finally with all of the adjustments done to it, which in this case is just levels and only levels. And if I hide that, this is what the original photo looked like. As you can see, it's a bit washed out. There's not that much color to it, not that much detail. And if I bring out the levels, as you can see, I did a bit of sharpening and a bit of adjustments in the levels. Now this is again only done with the levels adjustment. And here's another photo that I'm going to show you guys. Here's it with the levels adjustment, and here's it without. As you can see, it's really blown out, really bright, and I've dimmed it down just a little bit. And I have a couple other examples right here. So here's it with the adjustments, without, and finally this one without this is with the adjustments and without the adjustments. So we're going to close out of all of these up here, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do this and show you guys the basics of what all of these things are in case you do not know. Now this is a basic tutorial geared to people who have never heard of this stuff before, so if you're an advanced Photoshop user or a professional photographer, please do not watch this video. You already know this stuff. Go watch something else. So I'm going to open up an image. I'm just going to go and I'm going to it's my buddy's project. I'm going to open this up. And as you can see, this is the really blown out version, and we're going to be focusing on this up here, which is the histogram. Now, to get to this, I've just set my layout to photography rather than essentials, and that gives us the histogram. But if you want to keep your layout on something else, you can get to the histogram by going up to Windows and then making sure histogram is checkmarked. But once you, I just undid it. No. Okay, so once you have the histogram up here, as you can see, it's a little bit of a graph. Now, if you don't know what this is, essentially the histogram shows all of the data that's within the photo. Over to the left-hand side is where all of the blacks are. Over to the right-hand side is where all of the whites are, and in the middle is where all of the midtones are. So as you can see, this photo kind of clips off more towards the whites and doesn't have more data in the blacks, and we want to fix that. And that's exactly what the levels adjustment does. Now, typically you can get to levels by going to Image, Adjustment, and Levels, but here I'm in the adjustments panel, and we're going to click this to add an adjustment layer. So as you can see here, we have a new adjustment layer titled Levels, and another way to get to that would be to go down here to add adjustment layers and choose levels from here. But we're going to focus on this, and this brings up the levels dialog box over here in the sidebar. As you can see, we have three different sliders, a white one, a gray one, and a black one. The black one represents the blacks, the gray represents the mids, and the white represents the whites. So as you can see in this graph, we're clipping more towards the whites. So we want to bump up the blacks just a little bit. So I'm just going to drag the slider over, and as you can see, we're getting more detail in the blacks, and it's getting a lot darker. So if I just hide that by clicking this little eye, as you can see, this is the original image, and this is what we've done just by sliding the blacks slider. Now I'm going to grab the gray one, and I'm going to move that over to adjust the tonal values, and you can see all of the different things that it'll do. If I drag it all the way towards the whites, it'll do this. If I drag it towards the blacks, it'll do this. And we just want to move this around in the middle until we get something that pleases our eyes and that looks decent for what we want to do. So I would say that looks pretty good for what I want. Now, as you can see here, the histogram on the levels dialog stays exactly the same because this isn't a live histogram. But if we look at the actual histogram window up here, as we change the sliders around, you can see that changes as well. And you want to make the histogram look a little bit more pleasing so that it has a good value of blacks, a good value of whites, and a good value of midtones. And that's exactly what we're doing here. And you also want to just make sure it looks pleasing to the eye as well as the histogram. But there we go, that looks pretty good in the histogram, and the photo looks a lot better. Just to show you guys, this is it with the adjustments, and this is it without the adjustments. And that is the power of the levels adjustment. It's a really powerful little adjustment and tweak that you can do to your images. I always suggest doing this first before you start editing anything else in your image. And now that we've done levels, we can move on to things such as color balance, curves, adjusting the exposure, and things like that. But for now, I just wanted to give you guys a basic introduction to what levels actually does. So thank you a lot for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any suggestions for anything you want to see in the future, feel free to leave them in the comments section below. And that's it. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.